Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. My name is Joseph Malcarney. I am the chairman of the zoning board, and my colleagues will kind of wave their hands as I mention their names so you can see who is here. We have John Calogero, Charles Canham, Norma Dolan, Ron Mostello, Russ Tompkins, and Arthur Weiland. Tonight's meeting has been convened in accordance with the governor's March 13th, 2020 executive order 202.1 as extended, which suspends certain provisions of the open meetings law to allow the ZBA to convene a meeting via video conference. In accordance with this executive order, the public has been provided with the ability to view tonight's ZBA meeting via YouTube, and has been provided with meeting notices. A transcript will also be provided at a later date. On the agenda for this evening, we have the Merkill area variance, the Aramo area variance, Addition Farm area variance, and Mahoney area variance. Arlene, have all adjoining property owners been notified? Arlene's there. Maybe she'll be back. We'll touch on that a little bit later. We are going to start with the Merkill area variance. This has been publicized, though the majority of what it is that we're going to be talking about, we will be addressing in next month's meeting. So as a result of that, we are going to open the public hearing, and then this will remain open until we close it. So I would like to make a motion to open the public hearing for the Merkill area variance.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So moved. So anyone that is here on the call or the video conference or the Zoom link, if it's in reference to the Merkill area variance, again, we will not be diving into that more, but please check your calendars for next month's meeting. I can tell you when it will be in a moment here. That will be on June 24th. June 24th, same time, 7:30 p.m. So again, we will continue with that at that time. So we will move on with the Aramo. And am I pronouncing that right? Who's here with the Aramo? All right, is that Joe there? If you can unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself, Joe?
Yes, I did.
There
Okay.
you go. There you go. If you can kind of just briefly describe why you are coming before the Zoning Board of Appeals this evening.
Yeah, so I'm asking for a variance to build the deck in back of my new garage, which I applied for a variance for back in 2019.
Okay. All right, great. Russ, you want to take the lead on this? Kind of go through the planning board's motions and then your comments and findings.
Okay, so in front of me, I have the planning board from May 19th, 2021. And they held a meeting on the 18th of May, 2021 regarding the above subject. You want me to read their whole thing over? I can.
Yes, you can read and or summarize it.
Well, I'll put it out. Be resolved that Town of Clinton is making a positive recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals on a requested area variance to section 250 attachment 2, reducing the side yard setback from 50 feet to 27 feet to build a new 20 by 28 foot deck on an existing garage as requested by Joseph and Diane Aramo on property located at 586 Clinton Hollow Road, Salt Point, New York, with the tax grid basically ending in 124105 in the AR3 zoning district. The applicant is requesting a reduction in the side yard setback on the north side of the house from 50 feet to 27 feet to build a new 20 by 28-foot deck on an existing garage with a side yard setback on a 2.4-acre non-conforming lot. Property is in the AR3 zoning district. It is not within the Ridgeline Scenic and Historic Overlay District, not in a critical environmental area. Variance requested of almost 50% is substantial. However, the lot is very narrow and appears to have established before the town zoning requirements. Undesirable change will not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or be detrimental to nearby properties, as this non-conforming lot is among others in the neighborhood. The applicants state that they were unsuccessful in adding an interior staircase to the garage to access the second floor loft. So the addition of the deck is being sought by the applicants because they cannot achieve the same benefit by some other method. Applicants have confirmed that the loft has electricity but does not have water. Garage loft is not and will not be in the future used as an accessory dwelling. Furthermore, the applicants understand the future improvements to the loft may require a building permit. Proposed variance should not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood. Alleged difficulty is self-created, but should not necessarily preclude the granting of an area variance considering the surrounding conditions. And that was voted, it was passed 5-0. So I have prepared my own motion.
Yeah, let's not go to your motion quite yet. Let's discuss it. So just kind of when you were there and took a look around at the property, were there any concerns that you had?
My observation of the property didn't raise concerns to me because if you look at the diagram that's on there, you'll see the new garage, which was granted the variance previously to be constructed. And to the left of the picture is where you go down the hill to the road. So this new deck proposed will not even be visible from the road, and it is actually less close to the property line than the garage is that was granted a variance. There is a upstairs doorway where they propose to build this deck, which, you know, if you walk out of it now, there's nothing to come out onto. So I can understand having the deck up there and the stairs going up to it. It looks like an appropriate request in my mind.
Okay, other comments from the board?
I just had a question for Mr. Ramo. Will the stairs start on the old deck, or will they be from a new platform on the ground?
I wanted to put the stairs from a new platform on the ground as not to take up. I have more space on the upper deck to make the opening for the stairs than I would on the lower deck. If you understand, I'd rather sacrifice the space on the upper deck. So therefore, I have to adjoin my existing deck with a door that comes out of the garage where it meets the existing the house. I have a door on the lower floor of the garage also.
Okay.
I'm gonna join the deck and that door to the lower part of the garage and build my stairs off of that platform to go upstairs.
Okay.
Hope you understand what I mean.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, will whatever you have to build to get the stairs built, will it be within that 20 by 28 area?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, any other comments from the board? Okay, so at this time, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Aye.
At this time, any comments from the public? Just as a reminder, for those of you who may be here for the first time, anyone that comments, if you would be so kind as to state your name, and certainly if you let us know your address where you live, it's helpful for us to kind of get a context on.
But could Arlene take down that graphic? We can't see what's going on. We don't need it up for that long. Thank you.
Yeah. Any comments from the public? All right. Any further discussion from the zoning board on this? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Russ, your motion.
Okay, I did get a suggestion from someone, and I had in here the term whereas, if you cross that out and just put factors down. So I hereby motion the Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals grant an area variance requested by Joseph and Diane Irmo, 586 Clinton Hollow Road, Salt Point, New York, 12578. Tax grid 13240-6467-00-124-105-000 to section 250, attachment 2, for side yard reduction to 27 feet when 50 feet is required. Just a second. Army! Stop it.
Most of us can mute, but if you're the one giving the motion, it's hard to. hard to do.
I got my cat climbing all over me.
We all have our dogs. So when 50 feet is required, factors. 1, the applicant wishes to construct a 20 by 28-foot raised deck on the side of an existing garage that was built after a variance was issued for the garage in May of 2019. The new deck construction is to assist in building an outside staircase to provide access to the second story of the garage, as internal space limitations make an internal staircase impractical. 2, the Town of Clinton Planning Board issued a positive recommendation to the ZBA on May 19th, 2021 on this request. 3, the property is a non-conforming 2.4 acre lot in an AR3 district. 4, the request is substantial, being near 50%. However, the lot is narrow with the home and garage already in place. 5, there should be no adverse impact on the neighborhood, as the deck will not be visible from the highway, and it will not be any closer to the property line than the garage was already constructed under the previous variance. The alleged difficulty is self-created, but this should not preclude granting the variance. Property is not in a critical environmental area. The property is not within the Ridgeline Scenic and Historic Protection Overlay District. An area variance is a type 2 action and the seeker and requires no further action. The variance should not cause any adverse physical or environmental effect. 11, the applicants have confirmed that the loft has electricity but does not have water, and the garage loft is not and will not in the future be used as an accessory dwelling. Furthermore, the applicants understand that future improvements to the loft may require an additional building permit. There are no known violations.
Second for discussion.
Second.
Thank you. Are Russ in there? Did you have, this is a type 2 action under SECRA?
Yes,
Okay,
that was number 9.
perfect. Thank you. Any other comments about the motion?
All fees
Norma?
paid.
Arlene, have all fees been paid? Can you unmute yourself, Arlene?
Please add the fees, the legal ad, for condition. Ross,
So if we put a condition in there that all fees have been paid, thank you, Norma.
And a condition for downlighting?
Sure. Russ, any exterior lighting will be downward facing?
All right, I'll add that right now.
Okay. Any other comments?
Well, I just comment that I see there's a lot of tree cover, which about half the year should give quite a bit of privacy. I would expect the deck to be used more in the summer than the winter, but it is up in the air, even more overshadowing the neighbor.
I can't hear you.
So that's why the downlighting is really going to be important, just to keep it visually a little more discreet to the neighbor.
Okay. Any other comments about the motion? All right. So is I call your name again, an I vote is in favor of granting the variance. A nay vote is not in favor of granting the variance. John Collegiero,
Aye.
Charles Cannon,
Aye.
Norma Dolan,
Aye.
Ron Mostello. Are you there, Ron?
Yes, I thought I was unmuted. Aye.
All right, no problem.
Sorry.
Russ Tompkins,
Aye.
Arthur Weiland,
Aye.
and my vote is aye. So your conditional variance is granted.
Mhm.
Thank you for coming before the board, and we certainly wish you the best of luck on your new project.
Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
You too.
You as well.
Nice to talk to you all. Bye-bye.
Okay, the next on our agenda is Addition Farm Area Variance. And who do we have that's representing that?
It's Malloy.
Okay.
Oh, here she is.
I'm right here. Hello, Vivian. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Welcome. It's nice to see you.
See you.
Thank you. So with this, if you would be so kind as to let us know why you're here before the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Because I want to increase the size of the indoor. I already got a variance for the initial building of it.
Mhm.
As more and more of my thoroughbreds are retiring from their racing career, I'm retraining them to become hunter jumpers.
Mhm.
And so everybody told me can't do that in a 100-foot indoor. It's got to be double that because you can't. A horse has to have room to jump and land properly and not hit the wall. So that's why I'm asking for an extension of the size.
Sure, sure. It looks like it's, beautiful piece of property, and you've done an amazing job of keeping it up all of the different areas. Yeah, John, if you'll.
Yes. I can just comment briefly before I read the planning board minutes that I worked on the initial variance, and the project has exceeded my anticipation of what it would look like. It's absolutely stunning what's been done there. And there's great, they really had a lot of regard for the tree cover and the contours of the property and so forth. So it was very, very heartening to see. Moving on to this new one. The planning board met on May 18th regarding this application, and they made a positive recommendation for approval of a variance, reducing the front yard setback to the appropriate amount that we will get to in a moment. And the extension, as you would expect, will be attached directly to the new pole barn. So the applicant is requesting a reduction of a front yard setback from 100 feet to 50.8 and 52 respectively for this addition, which will be 72 by 100, to increase the size of the exercise area on this 62.86 acre parcel. The property is in the ag district. The property is not within Ridgeline Scenic or Historic Protection Overlay. It's not in a critical environmental area. And the planning board felt that it would not produce any undesirable change because the farm has been in existence for many years with its barns clustered close to the road. It is a substantial variance, 50%, but it fits in with the existing buildings on the property and also with many others in the area. And they say there will be no potential adverse effect or impact except during construction. The alleged difficulty is self-created. The application fee has been paid, and the zoning enforcement officer states that no known violations are associated with this property at the present time. So that's the planning board's feeling. Examining the project, looking at where it's staked out, it makes perfect sense. It is less of a variance being requested than was requested for the pole building that is just been built. It just seems to be a very positive project from my perspective. Maybe others who've looked at it might have a different slant.
Any other comments from the zoning board?
I'll just say that I agree with John's statements. I went down and looked at the property and talked to, I don't know if it was a farm manager or not, Buster Brown and his wife there. And it's a beautiful building, and having a daughter that has 3 horses, I can understand what Mr. Malloy was talking about. You need room to the horses to get a gate up. If they're going to jump, they can't all of a sudden stop or all of a sudden start. It is no more cumbersome than the variance that was issued for the first part, and it makes perfect sense what she's trying to do. So I think it's a good project.
Thank you.
Russ? Charles?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, historically, farm buildings were always close to roads, for lots of very good reasons. So it's entirely in character with the historic nature of the property.
And it's much farther away than the one that burned down. So it's a definite plus. So again, the property is always been well taken care of. That's on the route that I run. And it's nice to see beautiful farmland and well taken care of properties and grounds. Any other further comments from the zoning board? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Any comments from the public at this time? Any other further comments from the zoning board? John, your motion. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
I
So moved, so moved. All right, now back to you, John.
Okay. I motion that the Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals grant the following variance from 250 Attachment 2, Schedule of Area and Bulk Regulations to Henry and Vivian Malloy on their property at 90 Spook Hollow Road, Addition Farm. Tax grid number 13240063600582554. A reduction of the front yard setback from the required 100 feet to 50.8 and 52 for the building of a 72 by 100 foot extension to an existing pole barn. Factors. The parcel is a 62.86 acre working farm in an AR5 zone. 2, the applicants wish to construct an extension to a pole barn to increase the covered exercise area on this parcel. 3, The adjoining area is an existing paddock, so no clearing or substantial grading will be required. 4, the applicants are seeking a reduction of the front yard setback from 100 feet to 50.8 and 52 feet. 5, many agricultural buildings in the town are closer to the road than the regulations require. 6, the nearby barn and the pole building, which the proposed building will adjoin, are also close to the road, so the request is aesthetically appropriate. 7, the request is substantial, a reduction of approximately 50%, but that should not preclude its granting. 8, the hardship is self-created as this is a large parcel with alternative locations, but the applicant's intention to keep more land open and use an existing paddock makes this location preferable. 9, there should be no undesirable change in the neighborhood as the farm has been in existence for many years with clustered buildings. 10, the property is not in a CEA or within the Ridgeline Scenic and Historic Protection Overlay. 11, the neighbors most impacted by the project have written supportive letter with minimal conditions requested. 12, the planning board has issued a positive unanimous recommendation to the ZBA. 13, per the zoning enforcement officer, there are no known violations on this property. 14, the application fee has been paid. 15, this is a type 2 action under seeker and requires no further action. And I'm proposing one condition: lighting which faces the road and adjoining neighbors' property lines shall aim downward.
Great, thank you. Second for discussion.
Second.
Okay, discussion. The one thought I had was how confident are we in that 50.8?
I was going to bring that up.
Can we say either 50 or 48 feet? I'd hate to have Vivian have to come back here if it turned out to be 49.5 feet or something.
Yeah, I really think we should have a number that everyone will be comfortable with, since there isn't a whole lot of difference in two
Right,
one way or another.
And clearly the structure, we know where the structure is going to go. It's just extending straight back from the existing one. So it's not like if we give another 2 feet, she's going to be like, oh, let me take 5 feet. It is where it's going to be. We just want to make it so that there's no. So would anyone be opposed to if we said 48 feet there?
No, I'd be much in favor of it, even rounding it down even a little further
If we said 45, then it's even again. The structure is fixed where it's going to be. So we just, again, want to make it so that if there was a measurement off a little bit, it wouldn't.
I just want the minutes to show that 45 is not an even number.
Thanks, Charles. 48 is an even number, but
as I remember, the last time, there's some fluctuation in the boundary and in actually where the edge of Spooky Hollow Road is. I think we went through this the last time. So
Can you see my drawing?
I think that an adjusted number is probably a smart thing here. So
okay, are we going to go with the odd number of 45? All right, let's
I've
go.
always been accused of being odd, so that's not troubling me. I don't know anyone else.
All right, Arlene, you can take down the map. But yeah, so let's just call it 45 for the sake of the variances in the road.
Are you all right with that, Mrs. Malloy?
Yes, of course.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Okay, any other comments about the variance?
Yeah, I'm concerned that down the road, 30, 40 years from now, a new owner would use that space in such a way as to create a lot of noise and disturbance in some more commercial way. People in there a horse show or something. It's really quite close to the neighbors now. The way that Mrs. Malloy is intending to use it seems quite reasonable and appropriate. I think it would be a little bit tricky at this point to figure out a condition that would satisfy her current uses, but protect the neighbors from future excess.
What
Are
do you
you,
suggest, Arthur?
What?
What do you suggest?
That commercial horse shows, that the barn not be used for, or the pole barn not be used for commercial horse shows. Quickest thing I can think of. Do you have any comments, Mrs. Malloy, about what would protect, keep the use somewhat moderate?
Well, in order to have a horse show, you can't just have a horse show. You have to go in front of, you know, the USET and everything, and they have area districts and everything else. And I don't think I'd be qualified because there are so many other horse shows districts near me. So I don't think I would be
So
able.
it wouldn't impact you, but it's a future owner that I'm concerned with.
Well, the future owner too would have to go through the same process if you want to have a recognized horse show, to go in front of the AHSA, and it has to be in a certain location and not, and they only allow a certain number of shows within a certain miles. And so they're very strict about that.
so let me rephrase the question. Would you mind if there was a condition in the variance that said that and what are you calling this? The proposed extension is not to be used for commercial horse shows? Would that impact you in any way?
Well, me, no, but as my husband said, never tie the kids' hands. Don't do something that's going to tie my ancestors' hands.
That's part of the purpose of zoning, is for us to agree upon how we will behave on the roads on our property. So we do tie our hands. That really is the purpose of zoning.
Right. I don't think you have to worry about, well, I can't tell you what to do. I'm just saying that certainly is not my intention, and I can't imagine it's going to be any problem in the future. If anything, we might have a charity function or something, but I almost put all the loud music and everything over in my guest house in Rusky Lane. You probably have seen the open house with all the tents. We didn't have it because of COVID for 2 years, but we're going to have it in October again.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
I'm going to invite the whole board.
All right, all right.
Well, I would just explain to the board, if there is such a condition, I could vote for it. If there's not such a condition, I don't think I could vote for it, just because Merck Hill is coming back to us, and I was there when they allowed it to be built, and these things do come back with new owners, and the new owners at Merck Hill are very upset because they feel misled.
I understand your intention, Arthur, and I think it's a good one, but I think commercial horse show is almost too broad, and in another sense, it's not. I mean, I don't know what the true definition of a commercial horse show is. Does that mean it's sanctioned by the HSA? And if so, the likelihood of that occurring is pretty slim. But if we're looking to prevent a large gathering, there's nothing saying that Ms. Malloy couldn't have 100 people there.
Right.
So we got to figure out, I think, what we're trying to guard against here. And I don't think commercial horse show is the answer, quite frankly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how to word this, but perhaps we could somehow blend it in with a public event, a public
well,
event or something like that. I mean, she she certainly could have her own little competition, you know, even amongst family and friends or something. It's
Sure, and
not paid for. I can't quite
I
spit it out.
envision
Public,
I imagine that her training of her horses, and I don't know if she boards horses, but that is commercial activity, which she should certainly continue to be engaged in. It's part of what she's doing. I've seen this on other properties where people buy a horse farm arena with arenas, and they end up over their head and try all sorts of ways to make the mortgage. So
any thoughts or suggestions on this?
Well, I'll just say that I'm torn between Arthur and Ron. I worry about how to phrase this in a way to protect the neighbors without unduly and inappropriately tying hands of the applicant. So I can see both sides here, and I don't have any perspective language that I think resolves this. So
How about when the property changes ownership?
the variances go with the property, not the owner.
Well, not unless you put the condition.
Is our intent to limit or prevent mass gatherings, and do we call it that and put a number on it?
No, I don't think, because again, the property can be whatever the property is. This, she, can have charity events, or, again, gathering, like, we don't, this is where it becomes challenging, like what Charles is saying. It's like, certainly you can understand what Arthur is,
Yes.
The point that Arthur's bringing up. At the same time, how do you word such an event that can't be later on misconstrued to, say, oh, well, no, you can't do any commercial activities, and you can't board horses, you can't do this, you can't do that, and then, we're not looking to create issues, or to say, well, there's only 100 people, you're having this gathering for a local charity, and there's 106 people, those type of things. That's where it becomes,
Right.
I think, challenging to
It
say something. But again, we're open to suggestions. Did you have one, Norma?
no, it could conflict with town law in that respect as well. So we have to be careful there, and it needn't necessarily be horses if we're talking about future owners. It could be mules. I mean, they actually do have, no, that really, they do
It's
have.
a very good point. It's a good point. It's a good point.
yeah, I guess I want to suggest that
Want to do it right, sorry.
we have an events law, correct? We can't bar commercial activity. This is a working farm, and it has to have commercial activity to be a farm. So, and so I guess as sensitive as I am to Arthur's position in general, I'm comfortable in this instance without the condition. That's where I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with Charles on that. I think that I'm comfortable with the way it is without putting other conditions on it. If you're going to have a big event, like you say, you've just proposed agricultural events, and I think that I wouldn't want to tie the owner's hands.
Okay. And I think, to Charles's point, there are laws that we
Plus,
have.
she will have to get her own events special permit from the planning board if she chose to do that, or whoever.
Okay. Ron, what are your thoughts on it?
Again, I understand Arthur's concern, and I agree with it, but I don't know how we sort of summarize it to be efficient and clear enough. And I think we ought to rely on the events laws and whatnot to prevent what we're concerned about from occurring. And I'd be inclined to move forward as the draft motion is written.
Okay. Norma?
I don't think we can resolve this adequately without further research. So I think I'll just abstain rather than vote against it. And
Sure.
we have us all here in the discussion.
Sure. Okay. Norma, any other comments?
No,
Okay. All right. Any further comments from the board? All right. So as the motion, John, if you could just list, I think we had 2 conditions. Is that right? What the conditions were on your motion?
The condition is a lighting condition, lighting which faces the road and adjoining neighbor's property line shall aim downward.
Okay. All right. And the other was just the change in the setback. All right.
Right.
So again,
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Did we come up with a figure, because you said you didn't want to be tied down? So instead of that 50.8 and 52, did we come up with other numbers?
45 feet.
For
45.
both?
Yeah.
Well, it'll be a
we're
straight
just-
45 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
we rounded it off.
Yeah. All right. So again, an aye vote is in favor of granting the variance. John Calogero,
Aye.
Charles Canham,
Aye.
Norma Dolan,
Aye.
Ron Costello,
Aye.
Russ Tompkins,
Aye.
Arthur Weiland,
Abstain.
abstain, and mine is an aye vote. So again, thank you. Appreciate you coming out, and congratulations on your conditional area variance. And if there's any questions you have, of course, please feel free to reach out to Arlene, and good luck with everything. I like to see the progress each time I run by or bike by. So, again, we appreciate all you do to take such great care of your property, and it's very impressive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What I'm trying to do is breed a champion. Again, I did it already, and I have to prove that wasn't a fluke, so I have to do it. Thank
Good luck.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
you very much.
Okay. Do we need a few minutes recess, or are we okay?
Yeah, I could use a few minutes.
Okay. Let's take 5 minutes and then join us back here at, we'll say 8:20.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good night.
Charlie broke the ice. He's eating a cookie. I'm gonna go get a cookie.
I was gonna get a cookie, but my wife shamed me into eating an apple.
Ah, my wife's not here.
Arthur, can you bring me one too?
Absolutely.
Well, I went for a root beer lifesavers.
I can tell you a virtual cookie just doesn't make it.
So if I'm turning off my video, it's so you won't have to watch me eat my apple.
And, let's see if I don't know if the sound will come through though. I better do the mute too.
You got to be like the old people, Charles. You got to take the apple and you got to cut it with your pocket knife. You take off little pieces and then put it in your mouth off the knife. I can remember my father doing that.
I'm not
Yeah.
that old. I do that.
Yeah, then you'd have blood squirting onto the screen of my laptop, which is really not good.
Okay, well, are we all ready to get back to it?
Art's getting a cookie.
Oh. Get me one too, Art.
We tried that
You're
already.
muted.
Joseph.
You're muted, Arthur.
You didn't want to steer the crunching.
Joseph, you were chewing when you came back on. You were chewing.
I still am.
All right, I'll be right back. I'm listening. Don't.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Okay, so the next area variance we have is Mahoney. And so who do we have here for that one?
This is Jimmy Crisp.
Jimmy, welcome. How are you?
How are you? Very good. Yourself?
Good to see you. I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
I'm going to immediately turn it over to Joe Melito, the project architect, who knows the details far better than I do. And I'll just listen.
All right, Joe. So why don't you tell us why you're here and what variance you're looking for?
Good evening. The project is for the construction of a new guest cottage garage. The site is zoned AR5 with a total acreage of 25 acres. The new building will be sited behind and a little to the side of the main house and into an existing hill. The habitable space, 1,290 square feet, is over the allowed 1,000 square feet maximum as dictated by the town code 250-29 section B6. We are requesting an area variance for the 290 square feet that is over the allowed. The overall square footage of the building is 3,195 feet. For septic, a new septic system and well will be added in for the support of the building. We're applying for a special permit, which is required to the town for permission to build an accessory structure guest apartment. This request was granted previously in 2018, but construction was not able to begin before the variance expired.
All right, thank you. Ron, take it away.
That was very thorough. I don't think I have to do anything now.
Before we begin, I'm going to recuse myself from the item. Okay?
Sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm going to listen.
Joseph, I'm going to start with reading the letter from the planning board.
Great.
And I have a couple of topics for discussion.
Sure.
Letter is issued from the planning board regarding the Mahoney variance at 27 Shadbow Lane, tax grid number 906258, addressed to Mr. Merlito. At the Town of Clinton Planning Board meeting held on April 20th, 2021, regarding the above subject application, the following motion was made. Mr. Auspitz motioned that the Town of Clinton Planning Board approves the following resolution. Whereas one, applicants Michael and Deborah Mahoney seek a recommendation from the planning board for an area variance to have an accessory dwelling unit of 1,290 square feet, which is in excess of the 1,000 square feet permitted by section 250-29B. In a larger building they propose to construct on their 25-acre property in the AR5 zone at 27 Shadbow Lane, Town of Clinton. Similar relief has been granted before. After a positive recommendation by the planning board, the zoning board of appeals granted a variance with certain conditions on August 24th, 2017 to allow construction of an accessory dwelling space of 1,437 square feet on the second story of the 3,187 square foot building on the property. However, as Mr. Merlito stated, the variance expired before the construction began, so applicants are before us again. The new proposed building, which includes a 3-bay garage and storage area, would be 3,195 square feet, slightly larger than the 3,187 square feet previously approved. However, the variance sought here for the accessory dwelling unit is only 290 square feet rather than the 437 square foot variance previously allowed by the zoning board. It does not appear that the situation has changed significantly since the prior application. At that time, the applicants told the ZBA that the accessory dwelling unit was for the then 87-year-old mother of one of the applicants, and the ZBA discussed this factor. However, the ZBA also discussed other possible uses for the unit, such as for caregivers or family or inheritance that were clearly long-term. The only conditions the ZBA imposed were that the parcel be maintained at a minimum of 15 acres, that all lighting be downward, and all fees be paid. Zoning Board of Appeals reviewed the various criteria for area variance, such as no change to the neighborhood, substantial size, etc. Applicants state that they are seeking a special permit and site approval from the planning board for the accessory dwelling unit, but that the matter will be dealt with separately by the planning board. Planning board made the recommendation. It was seconded by Mr. Carroll. The motion carried 7-0, 7 unanimously. So we're 290 square feet over the maximum allowable. The minutes indicate, and the planning board letter indicates that the minimum 15-acre parcel be required. But there was a note in my packet with electronic signatures dated May 7th. I'm assuming everyone else on the zoning board had that as well. That said the lot will be no less than 10 acres. I left a condition in my draft motion that the 15 acres be a condition, which I guess we could discuss. The other item that I wanted to bring up, and I'm going to defer to more senior members of the zoning board with more experience than I certainly, is some differences between the assessor's card and the parcel access or the property parcel access card. The parcel access card wasn't in my packet. I might have mixed it in with the others. I went through it, but I printed my own. And what I'm getting at is the assessor's card has the land use class as 220, which is 2 family. But the parcel access card has the land use class as 240, which is residential, rural residence. 220 on the assessor's card is 2 family. So, okay, Arthur, maybe you can enlighten me here. Is that relevant or something to be concerned about?
My memory of the previous application was that the family had been a 2-family house, and another bureaucratic issue is keeping up with changes. So I think it lost its 2-family status during sale, although I'm not entirely familiar with how it changes. But I do believe it was prior to their ownership a 2-family house.
So is the parcel access card, I'm assuming, more current than the assessor's card? Is that what you're saying?
If it's listed as a single residence, yes.
Okay. Because I was just, whatever the outcome of our discussion and vote tonight is, I didn't want that to be tripped up by an incorrect property class down the road. Aside from the 15 acres, it's versus the 10 acres, it is fairly straightforward, as Mr. Melito has stated. A trip up there for a site inspection. I guess the rear and possibly side walls will be recessed into that upslope significantly. Seems as if it'll be set behind that sort of existing parking area now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's pretty much all I have at this point, Joseph.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from the board?
Yeah, I just have a comment or a question, actually. My recollection of the original proposal was for the structure to be situated closer and more behind the existing house. There were concerns last time that I haven't seen brought forward from neighbors about visibility. Is this one, the new site, is this site the same as the previous site, I guess is the question.
The building cited here is what was approved by zoning and planning on the previous round.
Okay, that you know, the way that's thank you, that answers my question. The way that the slope is there with it set in, it's not nearly as visible as you might think, but I couldn't tell from this. It looked to me like maybe it had moved further to the east, but as long as this is the original site, then I'm comfortable.
Yes, if you look on the site plan on the screen, you'll see that the topo goes up to this garage and the parking area and the main house.
Mm-hmm.
But then the hill continues on up through to the woods.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it is more visible because you're at the road looking up at it, but it will be pushed back into this hillside with retaining walls on 3 sides.
Mm-hmm.
To minimize, so it's not sitting on top of the hill.
Yeah, that was my recollection, but for some reason I I thought I remembered it being more behind the principal unit.
At one point, it was discussed to put it back there, but this location is what was approved by zoning and planning.
That's fine, thank you.
Further discussion from the zoning board?
We should mention, I'm sorry to interrupt. We should mention that because the previous zoning approval has expired, we would like, and the homeowners wrote a letter stating that they would keep the house and the guest quarters on a 10-acre parcel. We would like to reduce that from the 15 to 10 because it felt a little punitive that they would be restricted to a parcel that is less than what zoning normally allows in that zone. Is that right, Joe?
Yes. As part of the code, I'm sure you're familiar with, it does acknowledge that the owners must acknowledge this in writing, that the proposed lot would maintain that be no less than 10 acres if the certificates of occupancy are maintained.
Yeah, that's pretty common. You know, if it's 5-acre zoning, then to maintain,
Right.
if there you have 2 dwellings, then to maintain that minimal of the 10 acres. Okay, further discussion from the board. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Any comments from the public at this time? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Arlene, if you could drop the map. So we can, again, just to continue on with the discussion. Are there any concerns with the 10-acre? That's, again, what we came up with originally, which is typically what we would do for a two-family property. So
I believe it was 10 acres initially, it was 15
Yeah.
initially.
it was 10 initially. I think there was just a typo from the
Oh.
zoning, or from the planning board. We said 15, Arthur, you're saying?
Yeah, it's 15's in the minutes too,
Okay,
from 17.
all right, okay. So if that was originally approved. Again, what's the comments from the zoning? So again, typically we would do the 10-acre, since we had 2 dwelling units.
I'm ambivalent. It does seem punitive, and I don't believe we should be engaging in punitive actions if the zoning clearly does require that they maintain at least 10 acres. But any proposed subdivision of this to create additional building lots would obviously have to go before the planning board. It's not entirely clear where you might put in a driveway and how you might subdivide those 25 acres. This is in an area it's right on the border of an AR3 district that I happen to live in. And so there are lots of houses in this area. It would not be out of character to break that up. On the other hand, it is an important piece of open space. I guess my personal belief is that we should not, I am concerned about it appearing punitive to limit them beyond what the law requires.
I agree with what Charles just said. I mean, obviously it's a little above, it's 200 and some feet above the allowable that they're asking for, but does that warrant making them have an extra 5 acres onto it? And my feeling is that it requires double the acreage, which is 10, and we're giving them a variance on the extra 200 and some feet. I think that 10 acres is sufficient.
Okay, thank you. Arlene?
They have to get a special permit from the planning board too, so after the variance, so, and that requires the 10 acres, you know, the double the acreage for the accessory dwelling.
Right. Okay, Ron, what are your thoughts?
Well, honestly, I left it at 15 because that's what the historic information had, and I wasn't a part of that discussion back then, but in looking at the minutes, it seemed to be important at that time, but I understand the comments and the requirements today, and I would be in agreement to make the condition 10 versus 15.
Okay, John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just trying to recall what it was that gave us the momentum to ask for 15 acres, and honestly, I can't bring it back into my head.
I think because of the size of the dwelling, I think it was like almost double the size that time. They're making it smaller right now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think it was a combination of public hearing comments and the board member who presented the application at the time.
I'm happy to see that the proposal is smaller, even though it's over the max. It's still a smaller proposal and should theoretically have less impact. So
I mean, I want to say that I would hate to see this subdivided with 3 new 5-acre lots formed there. But I don't believe that my personal preference for having some large properties, you know, maintained in Clinton, you know, I guess I'm just not comfortable extending beyond what our zoning law
right, we
typically
have an
requires.
existing set of criteria, and we're not judicial. We are judicial, not legislative.
Legislative.
Arthur, your thoughts?
I think I'd vote for the 10 as I understand, have a sense of why 15 was sought, and I think John is pretty much on the mark with that because of the size of it, and so I'm on whatever Ron decides on in relation to his getting the general gist of the board. We'll see, but 10 I could vote for certainly.
Okay.
John, are you looking for that particular section?
I'm just scanning through the minutes again.
It's on
trying
page
to
11.
refresh my-
What you're looking for is on page 11.
While John's looking that up, Norma, your comments and thoughts?
Give recuse.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for the reminder. All right. We'll give John a second there. Are there any other comments?
Are we in the public hearing still?
Yes.
And
Oh, wait. Did I close it?
No, we closed the public hearing.
Yeah, I think we closed the public hearing
And
already.
Arlene, there were no letters from adjoining neighbors, were there?
Whatever I receive, I send it to you guys.
Yeah, I didn't see one. I just wanted to
There
make
was
sure.
none.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I guess it was kind of a feeling that since they were looking for 1,400 plus square feet, that they could maintain a little bit more open space as well, so.
Okay. In that case, Ron, your motion.
Okay, thank you. I hereby motion that the Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals grant an area variance requested by Michael and Deborah Mahoney of 27 Shadbow Lane, tax grid number 906258, with respect to the Town of Clinton zoning law district schedule of area and bulk regulations, section 250, attachment 2, for the construction of a 2-story accessory dwelling unit. The 25-acre property is located in an AR5 zoning district in the town of Clinton with the following factors. 1, the applicants intend to build a 3,195 gross square foot accessory structure for storage, garaging vehicles, and an accessory dwelling unit. They're requesting an area variance to allow construction of a dwelling unit of 1,290 square feet of habitable space when only 1,000 square feet is allowed by zoning. The addition of 1,290 square feet of habitable space requires a variance to section 250-29B. The variance of 29% is substantial, but less than the 43.7 previously approved by the Town of Clinton Zoning Board in 2017. 3, the requested variance will have no adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions within the neighborhood. 4, the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to nearby properties. 5, the property is located within the Ridgeline Scenic and Historic Preservation Overlay District. 6, the site is in an Ag District or CEA. 7, the site is on a Clinton Scenic Historic Road and must conform to local law number 3 of 2001. 8, the site does contain a New York State DEC wetland. 9, the alleged difficulty is self-created and the requested variance is substantial, but this does not preclude its granting. 10, the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by other feasible means, but the request seems reasonable. 11, an area variance is a type 2 action under SECRA and requires no further action. 12, there are no known violations. 13, the planning board has made a positive recommendation for the zoning board of appeals for approval. With the following conditions: that number 1, all fees have been paid. My draft will need to be edited here to make a change for the size of the parcel, but number 2 says the parcel will contain 2 dwelling units and should be maintained at a minimum size of 15. I'll change that to 10. And number 3, all exterior lighting shall be downward facing.
Second for discussion.
Second.
Thank you, Charles. Discussion. So just to be clear, so on number 2 of the conditions, you have the parcel will contain 2 dwelling units and should be maintained at a minimum size of 10 acres. Correct, Ron?
Making that change right now, yes.
Perfect.
Maybe that should say shall be maintained.
That would,
Yes, that's a good point.
Okay.
Okay, those changes have been made.
Okay. Further discussion from the board about the motion? All right. Again, as a reminder, an aye vote is in favor of granting. A nay vote is not in favor of granting the variance. Arthur Weiland.
Aye.
Russ Tompkins.
Aye.
Ron Mostello.
Aye.
Charles Canham.
Aye.
John Colangelo.
Aye.
And my vote is aye. So your conditional variance has been granted. Congratulations. Can let the owners know. And
Well, thank you all
very
very much. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it. We really
You're welcome.
appreciate it. And they do too, I assure you.
You still have to go to the planning board.
Correct.
We'll sign up. All right. Thank you again. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we have finished our area variances. Moving on to our
Going with
interpretation.
timing.
Yeah, we're doing well. Let's keep it up. So with that, now is it Mayo? Am I pronouncing that? What's the proper pronunciation there?
Now,
Mao. Okay, Mao. Thank you. The Mao interpretation, and we have Charles for that. So I'm gonna turn that over to you, Charles, to kind of take the lead on this one.
Sure. I mean, we still will have a public hearing, correct? Even though
Yes.
this is an interpretation?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And so, let's see, I just want to see, so Ms. Hagstrom, you're here for the applicant, and then is anyone else here from the applicant?
Good evening. Yes, one of my clients, John Tancock, is also present, just in case the board had any questions that I might not know the answers to.
Okay, great. I
I'm
just wanted
sorry,
to,
who's the other one? John who?
John Tancock, Tancock. He's on John's iPad.
And he's the, who is the, letter authorization from the owner? Is he,
Yes, he's on the authorization, yes. The zoning violation was actually issued only in the name of Mao, but both owners, there are two owners actually of the property.
yes.
okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure and to recognize the people who are here. So this is there's a long timeline here. I distributed to the board members just a crib sheet so that we weren't all sitting here shuffling through. In November of 2006, the owners applied to build a 3,670 square foot agricultural building. That application was denied on the grounds that this was not an agricultural building. And then a month later, a building permit was issued for construction of for essentially two storage utility buildings, one of 1,475 square feet and the other 1,300 square feet. That building permit was issued. The next May, there were inspections for footings and foundation, but apparently not much else done. In November of 2008, there was a letter to the owners from the building inspector alerting them of a need to basically either complete the construction or apply for a one-year extension, which appears to have been granted because in October of 2009, there was a follow-up letter that the extension would soon expire. The next correspondence on this was in March of 2011 when the zoning enforcement officer sent a letter raising these three issues. Aerial photos showed that two buildings were now joined by additional construction for which there was no building permit. The consolidated building was now larger than the principal dwelling unit, which is not allowed for accessory structures. And there was some question about the use of the building as an art gallery. And so that was in 2011. There's then a gap of about 6 years. In 2017, a building permit was issued for an addition to the primary dwelling unit. Much more expeditiously, by the following October, that permit was completed and a certificate of occupancy was issued for that residential addition. And then we jump ahead to April of 2019, when the building inspector noted that the owners had an expired building permit for the original structures and was using them without first obtaining a certificate of occupancy. I don't see any record that a certificate of occupancy for those two original storage buildings was ever obtained. Ms. Hagstrom, do you know if it was? There's no record of it that I can find in town records.
I don't believe so. I think that's something that we need to apply for and remedy. We have recently engaged, my clients have engaged the services of the engineer that was the engineer for the accessory structure. I had asked Ms. Campbell if perhaps the zoning enforcement officer could reach out to the engineer. He has not heard from him yet. So however that connection needs to be made, we would like to take care of that.
No, I had assumed that there was no CO because I think an inspection would reveal that the building was in violation, at least from as understood. And then in January of this year, a letter was sent to the owners from the ZEO, again noting 3 violations of the zoning code. The first was a failure to obtain a building permit for the connecting portion. I would add to that the certificate of occupancies would still be required for that building, however it is configured. And that probably requires obtaining a new building permit since the existing building permits expired. The second alleged violation was that the accessory structure as now configured exceeded the allowable size for accessory buildings. Now, the third issue was this issue of whether an art gallery is a permitted use in an AR5 zoning district. So there are a bunch of issues to unpack here, and if you all will let me just take a couple more minutes, I think I'd almost prefer to do these in reverse order. For instance, the building permit issue, I don't think can be resolved until we decide about the size of the accessory structure. And the art gallery issue, I think, is, to my mind at least, in many ways, the simplest of the issues. Well, actually, let me suggest that we deal with the size of the building first. And the original letter referencing section 250-105 dates back before an addition, an amendment to town zoning law in 2015 that spells out a clearer definition of this. You know, one of the challenges in zoning law and in building code is that building size, square foot living area, those terms are often not very well defined and a little ambiguous. Norma Dolan pointed out to me that the section 250.22 sub point 6 was added in 2015 that says, and I'll just read the language: an accessory structure other than for agricultural use shall not be larger than the footprint of the principal building on the lot. And this makes things quite a bit clearer because the section of our code that contains definitions, the definition for footprint is one of the clearest definitions for building area we have. Shall mean the area covered or which would be covered by the structure at the intersection of the exterior walls with the ground. And so that makes this discussion a little easier, and by my reading, makes it quite clear that the building does exceed the standard, because the footprint of the principal dwelling unit it's not stated in the applicant's materials, but the square foot living area of the first floor is under 3,000 square feet. So the footprint cannot be much more than 3,000 than the square foot living area of the first floor. And the accessory building is what, 3776, I'm sorry. So I'm going to stop there and see if, and ask, so Joseph, I guess, can we discuss this among ourselves before we open up the public hearing, or would you rather
Sure.
open up the public
Yeah.
hearing?
No, it's, I mean, we can certainly discuss it now if you want. If you recommend opening the public hearing, we can do that.
No, I'd like to hear what others think,
Yeah.
because I have to say that until Norma pointed, I have a very old, I haven't printed out the new version of all the updates, and I've been working with my very old weather-worn and beaten and annotated copy of the, and that only goes up to 0.5, but the online version, which is the up-to-date version of the zoning code, clarifies this quite a bit, because otherwise section 250-105 does not specify what it means to be larger or smaller. It just does not say. And so, for instance, the notion of gross buildable area and those kinds of terms just aren't defined. But footprint clearly is defined, and in this case, it does clarify things for me. So I'd like to see what others, how others read this.
Sure. Comments from the board?
Well done. Yes, it seems like you sort of put it together quite nicely, that the footprint is a deciding factor.
And this is probably being sprung on you unbeknownst, Ms. Hagstrom. So, you know, but you should also, you're also welcome to join into the discussion.
Thank you. So when the ZEO sent the letter, he only cited section 250-105, not what you're citing. So obviously I went to that section of your code. And after my submission, it just took a while to get the engineer out to the property.
Right.
They actually did the measurements based on your section 25105 of both structures. So there was clarity as to what the respective sizes are, and determined that the principal dwelling at this point in time, when this letter was written, is larger than the storage facility. So I'm hearing what you're saying for the first time. I did request a workshop meeting in my application. I never got notice of a workshop. So I don't know if that's what we're doing tonight and not opening up the public hearings to give me time to look at this and to address it now that I am getting sort of a workshop as we speak this evening. You know, I did check that off on the form for this very reason, so we could have an open discussion. I've gotten the engineer involved so we can hopefully try to work out and resolve some of these issues. I mean, we're talking about a 48-acre parcel. You know, this is not something where this is right on top of somebody. I would think I think there's neighbors that were notified, which I was surprised because I had checked off requesting a workshop meeting. I believe, from what I understand, there are several neighbors who said these are good neighbors. We're going to get to the art gallery portion of it next, that they have not observed anything of that nature. You know, I took pictures. I went to the property several times. I provided the board for transparency with those photos. It's storage, it's got a library, doesn't have plumbing, it doesn't have internet, it's not, you know, artwork's not being sold. So I think that issue, you know, if we could even dispose of, you know, anything off the bat or whatever you would like to address.
You know, why don't we try to focus on the size issue first and then deal with those others, and I'd like to hear from other members of the zoning board. Arlene?
Can I just address the one that you're talking about, the public hearing? So every application that goes before the ZBA automatically is a public hearing. I have to notify the neighbors. With regards to your request about the workshop, the board will decide on that, whether they want to do a workshop, you know, and that's why this is like an initial review.
Okay, but I guess I'd like to know whether we have something close to consensus on my interpretation, thanks to Norma pointing out the revised section.
Well, Charles, by going by that revised section, like you said, if I'm following you, you're using footprint. It's everything that the building is sitting on the ground. And that would apply to the principal dwelling, and it would apply to these accessory buildings. And by using those terms there, do we have values for both?
Well, we know the footprint of the accessory dwelling unit. I almost had to use a microscope, but there's a drawing in about a 2-point font. It says that the footprint is 3776, I think.
3776.
399. No, sorry. Yeah.
Lawyer's note, it was 3997.
Yeah. But I don't have a number for the house. It's a very somewhat convoluted design, but we can infer from the fact that there's only 2,918 square feet of living area in the first floor, and the rest of the living area is either, you know, the second floor, the attic, and the applicants are maintaining basement. But all of that's sandwiched above or below that first floor. So it's really hard. The walls would have to be 20 feet thick for that square foot living area to exceed the footprint of the accessory dwelling unit. And they're clearly not.
So I just want to make sure, did the board receive, they should have received a week ago, wasn't with the original application, but we supplemented our application with a site plan from the engineer who had the opportunity to go out to the house. So because I wanted to be able to provide board with the actual square footage. So they went out and measured. The storage facility is 3,982 square feet, and the house is 4,440 square feet. I mean, if you take
But that's not footprint.
right, but so that exactly goes to my next point. I mean, what you seem to be saying is you could have something that's as tall as a mountain, but as long as it doesn't have a large footprint, it's not deemed larger. That just doesn't seem, that seems nonsensical to me, but.
Well, no, the footprint of the storage building, according to the drawing from HHF Architects, has exterior footprint 3,997 square feet.
That's very close to the engineer measuring it at 3,982 or.
Yeah, okay, but anyway you slice this, that is larger, significantly larger than the footprint of the primary dwelling unit. It has to be.
Yeah, well, I'm, this is getting sprung on me tonight. I would like to be able to look at the section that you are referring to and make a written submission to the board.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I actually have, but I still would like to, Arlene, you can bring us all back on the screen. It's a little easier. I'd still like to let others on the board give me a sense of whether they think that I am reading this correctly.
Charles, what's that new section Norma referred to?
Well, it's the accessory units. It's 250-22, and there's A6. The old law went up to A5. Now it's there's an item 6, which I read to you and can read again.
Do you want me to put it up?
No, that's okay. I can just read it.
Just to clarify one thing, Ms. Hagstrom mentioned, there are height restrictions too, so it can't be tall as a mountain.
Yeah, right. And section 250-22A6 says an accessory structure other than for agricultural use shall not be larger than the footprint of the principal building on the lot. The distinction there is that section 250-105 just says shall not be larger, but doesn't invoke footprint. And just saying larger leaves us open to this question of what do you count? Do you count basements? Do you count attics? Do they have to be finished? And how do you measure them? Inside dimensions, outside dimensions, all those things get quite complicated. Footprint is the cleanest, most readily measured dimension of a building we have. And in this case, yeah, so I've said this 3 times, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Charles, just to kind of make, are you suggesting that, or, kind of getting a feel for the board, if we feel like there is, a violation here and or a variance required to proceed?
My recommendation is that this requires a variance.
Yeah,
and that the proper course is to just simply apply for a variance. I happen to agree with Ms. Hagstrom. This is a very large parcel. The building is very well hidden. It's not, the neighbors spoke up in favor of the building. This is exactly what variances are for. And
I would agree with you.
And when this was done, it was before, when it just said larger, we've had lots of cases where it's hard to know exactly what number to use. I applaud the revision to the law that says footprint, because now we actually know what to measure and when somebody needs a variance. But in this case, my resolution for this aspect would be to recommend that the applicants apply for a variance on the size of the accessory structure.
Yes, and I would agree. Any other comments from the board about this?
We are workshopping this.
Yes.
Okay, and I think a variance for the current situation is pretty rational.
Yeah. So can we, and if that variance is granted, the first item, the building permits and the certificates of occupancy, those are resolvable just following standard procedures. When someone has allowed a building permit to lapse and hasn't gotten a CO, there are procedures that the applicants can follow to do this properly. I am a big believer in certificates of occupancy. There's a reason for them. They're designed to ensure that buildings are safe and that the applicants are safe in their homes and buildings. But so maybe we ought to just turn to the art gallery issue. And in the interest of time and being blunt, it is my position that this is not an art gallery in the common usage of that term, in which there is commerce being done, art being sold, open to anyone from the public to come in to look at and purchase. To me, this is a building in which the owners wish to display and store and show to friends, neighbors, guests, their art collection. To me, that's no different than, you know, if my garage was big enough and I could put all my boats in there and I wanted people to see them, would I have a marina or a boat yard? I don't sell boats, I just build them. And, you know, if I had a big garage and I had cars I like to work on, I don't think I would consider that a garage. So to me, this one, you know, I'm glad the CEO brought this up. There was some initial concern, but I just told you my feelings on this. And again, let's consider this a workshop. So what do others think?
Barring evidence of any commercial showing, which in my mind would annoy the neighbors, I have to agree with you, Charles. The neighbors maintain in those communications that we got that this property is maintained quietly, that there's nothing that disturbs them. You know, I have, you know, if we've had complaints of traffic or noise or something like that, I'm sure the zoning enforcement officer would have that. Barring that, I tend to agree with you.
John, I'm in agreement with you to a point. When I first received the packet, although I can't find it now, I'm struggling to find it. I thought I saw a reference to the gallery, if we're going to call it that, being advertised on the internet.
Yep. Yes.
It is there.
There is a statement about that and an invitation to come and look at it, but we're lacking a lot of information there as to what is that talking about. Is that 3 or 4 people who are going to take a ride to see this private collection, or is it part of some program? Is it ongoing? Is it one time? We don't have any of that information, in my opinion.
And I would note that, for instance, the Clinton Historical Society periodically asks people to open up their barns for people to come look at. You know, a variety of nonprofits in town ask people to open up their gardens for garden tours to you know, to raise money. And I don't consider those commercial activities either. In my mind, it's a pretty common event in the town.
The only thing I'm looking at the photo now, and I'm going to read it. Members will take a day trip to visit the private art collection of Christopher Mao, founder of Chambers Fine Art in Salt Point, New York, named the Art Farm. The property houses Mao's collection of archives and contemporary Chinese art. Was designed by renowned Chinese artists, and goes on and lists the name. The wording is kind of, it's like, what is an art gallery? And I realize you people are saying, well, you know, if it's it says it's his private art collection.
Those are keywords right there.
You know, founder of there's little, then when I read founders of Chambers Fine Art in Salt Point, New York, it makes it sound a little different. But if it's his private art collection, he's got a building and he wants to store it in it. If you had a building like that and you wanted to store, you know, like I said, boats or old, whatever, old antiques or whatever, it's the key point is what's the art gallery? And Miss Hagstrom mentioned in some of her correspondence, touched on it with a definition, I believe, because there is no definition in the zoning law of what an art gallery is. But if it's only his private art collection, it's unfortunate he puts down Chambers Fine Art in Salt Point. That makes it sound like something that's more public, you know? It's like words are fighting each other almost there, you know? But if it's just a place that he stores his own private things, then I don't consider it, in effect, an art gallery.
So I guess the difference is, you know, is it public or is it private? And to the point, is this something that, you know, anyone can come into at any time? Can people purchase, you know, from here to say, oh, is it used for sales and those things? It doesn't appear to come across that way.
Can you comment on that, Ms. Hagstrom?
Sure, I think I addressed that in the application, that items are not marketed and sold from the property, that it's for private enjoyment. You know, they might have guests that come and look at the art. It's only in one section, a small section of the building. You saw the photos, most of it's storage. I mean, the fact is he did have art galleries in New York City and in Beijing. So there's a lot of material coming from Chambers Fine Art from those areas that's being stored, you know, privately, but not being marketed or sold from here, and just for private use. And if there's an office in there, there's a personal library, there's storage.
Where is
there's even
Chambers
storage
Fine Art?
above where this art is displayed.
Where is Chambers Fine Art?
I'm going to ask my client to comment on that. Mr. Tancock, it's Mao who has the art gallery, but.
Still muted.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Sorry, what was the question again?
Where is Chambers Fine
Well,
Art?
Chambers Fine Art is in New York City. And it, until a few weeks ago, it was in Beijing.
Okay.
So that's where there were two galleries. And that's where all the commercial activities took place.
Thank you.
And when you asked, it is true that it was advertised on the gallery's website. But I think in part that was because the building itself is rather remarkable. And so it, although it's actually listed on our website, we get very, very few requests from people who actually want to travel all the way from Manhattan, wherever, to see it. Whereas local groups from colleges, universities, whatever, they appreciate the opportunity. So I would say it's very private.
Okay.
Can I ask if I were to have RSVP'd for this event that's detailed here, were there fees for that?
Oh, of course not. No.
Okay.
That's out of the question.
So what's the difference between a member and a non-member?
So what does that refer to?
It says current members can RSVP to an email address. If you'd like to become a member and attend this event, please click here. What's the distinction between the member and non-member?
Oh, you're talking about an upcoming event?
It was that event on the that you had to RSVP to.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. No, all right. Well, the group that was coming, they had a group of members. This is, I think, what's it called? Art in General? Is that what you're referring to?
It was a day trip to visit the private art collection of Christopher Mao.
Yes. So the membership, actually, that refers to membership of the organization that was coming up here. Nothing to do with the gallery.
Oh, so you had to be a member of that organization to be able to partake in this particular showing?
Correct. But I mean, but
I understand.
if you as an individual had wanted to come, then we would say, all right, you're a neighbor, please do.
Understand. Thank you.
Right, but it's not open to the public. It's on a private invitation basis if people, just as you would invite somebody to your house. And can I get a copy of whatever, because I have not seen that, if somebody can send that along to me.
Yeah, we end up with so many pieces of paper that trying to keep track of them. So,
Well, I only had the history going back to 2011, so I appreciate you going back further for me.
yeah, it was in our packet, Arlene. It looks like this.
Yes, that's what I got. Yeah.
Send it to Ms. Hexman.
I was just trying to remember and looked it up. Cliff Botway has a car collection, and he opened it up to the community at one point, just as a private gesture to support a community activity. So it's just a similar sort of thing. Another issue is art gallery and other terms. If they're not in our schedule of uses, they're not allowed. It's that straightforward. So I think, art farm is an unusual exuberance, which led him down a bit of a curious path, I think. But
well, we thought very carefully about the name.
Yeah, but the farming is not appropriate for our zoning in this situation. So you use the concept of farming for a while there in relation to this building. But anyway, nonetheless, well, I just wanted to mention that I'm agreeing with Charlie. At the end of his document, he feels your statement is that it's pretty straightforward. This is a private activity.
Yeah, the language I proposed was the use of an accessory building to display the owner's art collection for viewing by themselves and their guests, but without any commercial activity involving that art, including but not limited to sale of artwork, is a permitted use of an accessory building in AR5 zoning district.
I believe in home occupations. If you had a studio and you were making art and sold the art as home occupations out of your studio, of course, that wouldn't be an art gallery, but it would be commercial sale of art. So I don't know.
Well, yeah.
Complicated, ins and outs.
I mean, this
It's
all
a question of terminology.
Yeah.
As with the word footprint.
John, you quit while you're ahead.
This all
Don't turn a home run into a single. You have to mute now.
This all goes away with if a variance is granted, right? So in other words, this part doesn't go away, but we have to decide this part. But the broader problems are resolvable with a variance, but not so. We do need to resolve this, I guess. So, Arthur, that's a really good point. Do I need to change the language to not?
No, I think you're fine.
I think I'm fine.
Yeah. We quite often have differences of opinion with a zoning enforcement officer. On the other hand, I'm very glad he's out there looking at these issues. I think he's doing quite a good job at the moment. And this seems to be resolvable with a variance because of the size of the property and general location.
And Arlene, is it, and if they receive a variance allowing the size of the accessory structure, then am I correct that there's a fairly straightforward process for them to fix the problems with building permits and COs?
Yeah, so you're saying the use is going to be, it's not an art gallery, right?
Yeah,
so
not an art gallery, so it's an allowed use, and the building is,
size. So
and the building size is okay.
So yes, that would solve the issue about the violation about the structure. If you grant the variance, and then we could issue the permit and the COO. Yes.
Yep, okay.
Well, the question is, I'm a little confused. The building, the third building they put up without a permit. If they apply for a variance and it's granted, do they need to get a permit for the building they've already built? And then they obviously need certificate of completion of their occupancy for those buildings that are combined, those three.
Well, they have to resolve all the open permits that they have.
There's a little bit of a trick on the connecting building, and it never had its footings inspected.
Yeah.
So that's on them if it fails.
Yeah. Timing is a little complicated here, Ms. Hagstrom, because granting a variance on a building with multiple violations is not something we routinely do, and yet we can't resolve these problems without granting the variance. So I'm not entirely sure I know how to solve that problem. It's got to be solvable. We can't have a catch-22 here.
Well, we did this in the past, that the only way to correct the violation is granting those variants. This is not the first time we're doing this.
Okay.
So
It's unfortunate, though, that you look at this history. This thing's been going on since 2006. It's 15 years of back and forth, and I don't know. It's very disturbing that this has led to this kind of mishmash of stuff.
That's why I want to thank the CEO for, even though I disagree with some aspects, I want to thank him for his diligence.
So
Yeah,
this
it would be nice to fix this all once and for all.
Yeah.
It looks like that's happening.
Yeah.
So, Charles, do you want to kind of sum up where we're at? Or do you want-
Yeah, my proposal is the language I gave, basically saying that this is not an art gallery, that the use of the building to display the art as described in that statement is not a violation of the schedule of use variance of uses for an AR5 district. So that issue goes away. It is my conclusion that the building, the accessory structure, is clearly larger than the primary dwelling unit's footprint and therefore does require a variance. And that once that variance is granted, the building permit and CO problems can be resolved.
Right. So that does, and that sounds like, so again, just to kind of summarize, we have one is the interpretation, which we can address this evening.
Yep.
We can get that taken care of. The second is that, and Ms. Hagstrom, if you're going to be the one doing this, you will need to go through the process of applying for an area variance. Then you will come back, you will go before the planning board and come back to us, in which case, if you are granted the area variance, then you'll go through the process of working with Arlene on new building permit applications and verifying and going through all of that process. Once you have satisfied the building department and COs are issued, then everything is all above boards and everybody's happy. So that
sounds good. I'm hoping to get to that point where everybody's happy.
good. Arthur?
A variance to allow, and then a building permit to cover the unpermitted section, and then inspection, CO, everything's hunky-dory.
Right, exactly. So that being said, what I'm proposing is that we move on to address the interpretation. And are there any other comments specifically about that before, and we will open the public hearing. But before we do that, any comments from the board? All right, any comments, Charles, before we open the public hearing?
Nope.
Do you, Ms. Hagstrom, consider this an appropriate workshop? Are you satisfied with the structure and issues that we've gone over?
I do. Thank you very much. Yes.
Great. I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Any comments from the public at this time? I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Hold on a second. Let's make sure that he doesn't have something to say, because this guy is for.
Sure.
Ms. Tomaselli, do you want to talk?
No, thank you.
Okay,
Okay. I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Charles, your interpretation.
Yeah, so here's the language I propose. And I guess I move that the use of an accessory building to display the owner's art collection for viewing by themselves and their guests, but without any commercial activity involving that art, including but not limited to sale of artwork, is a permitted use of an accessory building in an AR5 zoning district.
Second for discussion.
Pretty much sums it up.
Is that a second, Norma?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. Okay, any discussion? All right. So an I vote is in favor of what Charles said. John Calogero.
Aye.
Charles Canham.
Aye.
Norma Dolan.
Aye.
Ron Mostello.
Aye.
Russ Tompkins.
Aye.
Arthur Weiland.
Aye.
And my vote is aye. So we have the interpretation as given by Charles, which sums it up, I think, very well, succinctly.
Are
Thank
we
you.
also
for-
interpreting the square footage issue with size of the buildings?
I don't think is there anything there that we need to address, you feel,
You know,
Charles?
that the new section, referencing footprint makes this so much clearer. I was preparing for this long drawn out discussion, whether you count closets and, covered porches and unfinished basements, which is what we've been through in the past.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's very painful, but footprints are straightforward.
I'm just trying to see, it seemed to me that there were three things they wanted interpreted. One obviously is the art.
It was
Is
two.
there anything else
It was
that's not?
Well, failure to obtain the building permits was the first.
And I think I just added in that the order to remedy was only issued to one property owner, not the other one. That was the other legal issue that I raised.
And I was gonna leave that to you and the other lawyers. So I think the upshot is that if the variance application is successful, then this
Yes.
all
Everything else goes away.
gets
We want to
resolved.
fix everything. That's the intention. Yes.
Okay, so Ms. Hagstrom, is there anything else that you were looking for or from us at this time? Again, once you have the interpretation, which Charles just rendered, basically stating that this does not fit into the art gallery, and you have the path to, clear up everything. So you're clear with, if you unmute yourself, say that again.
I'm appreciative of the board's guidance. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're
You
welcome.
couldn't read my lips.
Yeah. All right, great. So thank you, and we'll be seeing you in the near future.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Thank-
All right, well, it's only 9:30.
It's only 9:30.
come on.
I had that
You
extra.
did a
couple
great
of
job, Joseph. I
minutes.
thought we were gonna be here until 11.
Yeah, I was warning midnight, but
That,
Oh.
that coffee I had, who's gonna stay up with me until it wears off?
And Charlie did a great job with chunking this up and summarizing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
well, without Norma, we'd still be talking an hour from now.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm just so happy to find that sentence.
Oh, man. I need to print out the new law. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, Charles, because I didn't have that 6 in mind either. And I'm saying, there's no 6 here, so.
Yeah.
Arlene, are we going to get updated copies at any point?
It's
Or do we have to-
online. You know what it is? The same book that you're using is the same book that I have. So, and you got to remember, they're revising everything, so.
I find it really helpful to go online and do a word search because it finds the things that I've forgotten.
Yeah.
I had a devil of a time finding that. I mean, the area that discussed it.
Yeah.
Are we just among ourselves now? Are we off for air for the public?
Oh,
If you
Not
want,
yet.
we could adjourn and we could talk.
Adjourn the meeting and then I'll turn everything off.
Yeah, we could
All right, so-
adjourn, we could adjourn and then we could talk.
make a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right.